I live out in the middle of nowhere, thankfully, so I don't have a lot of distractions. And other than the distractions that I allow in, I mean, for example, I have a cell phone. It never goes in the bedroom with me. That's what voicemail's for. I deliberately sort of decide what is going to come into my life and what is not. And I know that if I go downtown and I'm maybe going to see a show or whatever, that I'm going to have to deal with a fair amount of interaction, and I'm fine with that. And when I'm working, when we're on tour or whatever, there's a lot of interaction. When I'm at home, there's little to none other than, with my family.
Greetings, Legion, and welcome to episode 223 of Into the Necrosphere. This week's guest is by far one of the most requested, perhaps in the history of the podcast. I speak, of course, of David Vincent, currently a member of Vltimas, Terrorizer, and I Am Morbid, formerly a member of Morbid Angel, and you have got quite the ride coming your way. We spent about an hour together discussing a vast host of topics. Those topics did not, for the most part, include Morbid Angel. As I've mentioned before on the show, whenever I get somebody new on the podcast, I do tend to ask them whether there's anything that they would like me to avoid talking about. David's request was that we stay away from Morbid Angel as much as possible. So if you're expecting a Morbid Angel history lesson, this is not the episode for you. But if you would like to find out more about his approach to performance, why he lives in the countryside, and probably see a side of him that I'm not sure I've seen on any other interviews previously, then buckle up, because it is a really fun conversation and it's coming your way very shortly. But before we get to that, we have another world premiere, our second for the month, and it comes at us by way of Belgium. The band is Coldborn. It is spearheaded by Norgath of Enthroned and Nightbringer fame. Norgath dropped me a line to let me know that not only is he a big fan of the podcast and thus has impeccable taste, but he also let me know that his solo project, Coldborn, is going to be putting out a new record at the end of this month called The Unwritten Pages of Death. And he wanted me to share one of the first tracks off of the album with all of you. So, for your listening pleasure, feast your ears for the first time ever on The Antechamber of Eternal Sleep. You just heard the world premiere of The Antechamber of Eternal Sleep by Coldborn. Coldborn, of course, is the solo project by Norgath. And Norgath has played in a vast number of legendary bands, including Enthroned, Nightbringer, and Grimfog. I made a mistake when I said it was going to be released at the end of this month. It's actually out on May the 10th. And considering the fact that's my daughter's birthday, it is probably a good omen. But then again, that song is fucking excellent. So that should convince you plenty if you hadn't heard of the band before. But a big thank you to Norgath for giving us the pleasure and the honor of premiering that song. I will post a link to Coldborn's Bandcamp in the description to the podcast, so head over there and do yourself a little pre-order, and when you do, you let them know who sent you. My friends, if you are new to the podcast, make sure you elbow drop the subscribe button on your platform of choice. Follow me on the socials, leave me a 5-star review, a comment, a share, a like. All of that helps the podcast, and of course, you can also add some Into the Necrosphere merchandise to your wardrobe. If you don't have any, trust me, your wardrobe is crying out for it. So head over to the Into the Necrosphere Teespring store. Again, link in the description to the podcast. And critically, make sure that you are following my fellow horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse, a group of men united by one mission, and that is to battle mediocrity in all its forms by way of podcasts that start on a Monday with Horrorwolf 666, hosted by Brandon Legion. On a Tuesday, yours truly casts hexes and slays poses right here on Into the Necrosphere. Next week, my guest will be Matt Pike of High on Fire, somebody who has been on my wish list of guests pretty much going all the way back to episode 1 of this podcast. He's joined by Jeff Matz, who plays bass for the band. They were on hand to talk about Cometh the Storm, the new High on Fire record. And we also went through the stories behind some of my favorite High on Fire songs. So if you're a fan of that band, you absolutely cannot miss that episode. The week after, DG of Mysterium, I caught him and had a hour's conversation with him at Inferno Festival in Norway. I will be dropping that particular episode. And then the week after, I will be speaking to none other than Silenos of Dimmu Borgir, and a perfect way to cap off my Inferno experience. I actually recorded this about a week ago, so we didn't do it on location, but we had an opportunity to reflect on what that Inferno live show was like. Talk a bit about his thinking around the band from a production, from a songwriting perspective, and much, much more. I mean, it's a really, really fascinating conversation, and he is an absolute man's man. So make sure that you are there for that episode coming out in 3 weeks' time. And moving on to the rest of our weekly schedule, every Wednesday, we've got Sensei Mike Hill bringing you another installment of Everything Went Black. Every Thursday, Sheriff Mike Scandado and Professor Jeff Kashid join host Sensei Mike Hill for an episode of Necromaniacs, one of my favorite podcasts of the week. On a Thursday and a Sunday, you've got the great Sinister Minister, Carl Haikara, bringing you a journey, a curated journey through the dark, the weird, the arcane, and the esoteric, and then skulking in the shadows, ready to pounce when you least expect it, Cheyenne of the band Trivax. If you stick around after my conversation with David, I am going to be featuring the brand new music video by Trivax. Against All Opposition is the name of the song. It is as incendiary, if not more so, than the video they released for Azrael previously. And of course, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple or wherever else and you can't see any of the visuals, firstly, you are deprived of the sight of my face, and secondly, the song fucking rips, so it's still worth waiting for. And then, of course, straight after that, it's time for the weekly news rant, and this week we are listening to brand new songs by 6 Feet Under, Gatecreeper. We're listening to a re-release of a classic Edge of Sanity song, an update on the My Dying Bride tour situation, and much, much more as I round up the latest singles for Judgment. So stick around for that, but right now, welcome to the podcast for the first time, hopefully not the last time, Evil D, David Vincent of Vltimas, Terrorizer, and I Am Morbid. There we go. So first things first, let's talk about Inferno.
Sure.
Now, I dropped you a note after the fact to say, firstly, I mean, it was a fucking fantastic set.
Well, thank you.
I think the really interesting thing about it was that my fiance, who up to the point that we had met, I think the most metal literally she had ever heard in her life was maybe 2 or 3 bars of a Metallica song. And even she got it watching you guys play. Like I turned to her afterwards. I said, that's how you put on a fucking show. And she was like 100%. And that to me is always a rare thing, right? If somebody is able to cross over, especially in this style of music, to somebody who doesn't know the scene, doesn't come from the scene, and they can watch it and they can see why people are drawn to it, I think that says something. But how did you feel about how the set went, and how did you feel just generally about that evening?
Well, I mean, I felt like it was a good show. I mean, these festivals, they're always a bit rushed. There's never enough time to set up. Thus, the fact that we're doing an interview now as opposed to on site, because there's literally nowhere quiet. There's nowhere to really focus on something that's going to give you a good quality conversation. So we just canceled everything for it. There's just nowhere to set up. Like I said, nowhere quiet, nowhere comfortable. And every 2 minutes there's an interruption. So, best to just, again, when we go on tour, the most important thing is to deliver a quality performance, because, goodness knows folks have a whole lot of choices on where to spend their hard-earned bucks these days on video games or, doing anything else in the world other than going to a concert. So it's always been, well, I can speak for the whole band, but me personally, it's been my main prerogative to deliver 150% of anything that I got on that stage and let people know that I appreciate them being there. And, I wouldn't be there if it weren't for them. So it's, it's a respect thing.
Was this your first Inferno?
No, I've done, well, in the past, I've done it with other bands, but this was the first one with Vltimas, yeah.
And what's your thoughts generally on the festival?
It's cool. There was, a lot of interesting acts. Norway obviously is sort of known for being the hub of a certain sort of style of music, much like probably Tampa Bay area and the San Francisco Bay Area, etc. The Gothenburg sound. I mean, there's this notion of, you're almost in the presence of royalty. So, it's cool. I mean, I enjoy festivals. I enjoy larger stages. I enjoy being able to play in front of folks that may not be familiar with us, in the hopes that I can show them something that might interest them. So.
Well, so one observation I had of the show, amongst several that we'll cover, I was impressed by how well the audience already seemed to know the material that you guys played off of Epic. Frankly, including myself. I mean, I've had the record for a while now, but I mean, it had only been out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the point that you guys played it. And I remember when you did Exercitus Era, and people, you could, the crowd just immediately responded to it. And considering that it's also a predominantly black metal crowd, I mean, you've got Runar there, and obviously, his pedigree brings something to it, and I think yours crosses over in any case. But yeah, it was the crowd genuinely seemed to be ready for it. Like sometimes it could be the band plays, people don't know the material, but they put on a good show and people get into it. But with you guys, there was a real embrace, a real readiness from the audience, at least from my perspective.
Well, and I don't disagree with you. And we found, we just basically got together, for a number of reasons, but we had 6 shows. It's kind of, like release shows, as it were. And excuse me, I was also quite surprised that that folks seem to be familiar with the material, with the new material. I guess that's a good problem to have. And like you said, it had only been out 2 weeks, and we noticed that at the other shows as well, where people were, they were really getting into the stuff. I mean, I feel like we have a pretty unique sound. And the way that we go about writing songs, there's a certain type of catchiness that we do that I don't really hear it in other bands. So being unique is that's always a good thing. And of course, I'm extremely fortunate to play with such amazing musicians, and that just makes for a great time. We all had a lot of fun.
I'll touch on the musicians piece in a second, but I think you're absolutely right about the catchiness, and it's again, I think especially for if I take my fiance as the measuring stick, somebody who doesn't know the style of music, it could very easily just come across as racket on stage, especially if the band is just playing at a blinding speed all the time. But I do agree with what you guys have is those moments, scattered all across the set that people can really latch onto. Whether it's you doing clean singing, whether it's slowing things down, whether it's one of Runa's riffs being particularly catchy, there's a lot of that scattered across the set. And over the past couple of years, it's been a recurring theme on the podcast where we've spoken a lot about constructing sets in a way that has those dynamics and those peaks and valleys. There's a lot of bands, some of them no doubt you'll know, where they have an incredible discography, but they spend a 45-minute set just literally playing every single fast song that they've ever recorded, and it just kind of all blurs into one wall of sound. Doesn't really ever leave you with, like I said, with that moment where maybe your head banging, or the moment where it's just fist in the air kind of thing. There's a lot of care clearly in the way that you guys construct your sets and then the way that you're going to pace the show.
Well, and within song to song, yeah. I mean, again, we have an interesting diversity coming from our myriad of influences over the years, and I kind of liken my character to just a storyteller, and to tell a story. I mean, if it's just on like a light switch and then off when it's over, it does the mood. Creating an atmosphere kind of gets lost by the wayside in deference to basically what you said, just people, folks just sort of bashing on their instruments and it's brutal. And see, I like fast stuff too, but I also like slow stuff. I like all kinds of things. And I feel like, when you're taking an audience on a journey, you're getting in inviting them into your mindset. So you have a story, sort of an ongoing story that has ebbs and flows and a bit more like a roller coaster as opposed to just a speeding train that goes from one abrupt stop to another. Yeah.
The analogy I'd use is it would be like watching the Two Towers, and all you have for 3.5 hour running time is the Battle of Helm's Deep. You kind of want all the spice that either precedes or proceeds it.
I would agree with that. It's just, again, we do what we do. I'm a music fan. There's a lot of bands that I like. And I just don't feel like, I feel like what we do is what we do. And we don't really sort of compare ourselves to maybe how other people do stuff. We do what's right for us. So.
I remember Runa kind of having a very similar attitude when he came on the podcast, and it even in the short period of time that we're talking, I can kind of tell you guys are kindred spirits in your approach and in kind of your steadfast uniqueness. How did you and he meet and decide ultimately to start making music?
Well, interesting. You as you're around the touring circuit, you meet people at festivals, various shows as you're, we're all vagabonds at the end of the day. So actually Morbid Angel was playing at a Brutal Assault Fest and Mayhem was also playing. Now I knew Hellhammer previously because when we took Immortal on tour, Hellhammer was playing drums for Immortal. So I knew Hellhammer, and I was speaking to him, and I said, I'd like to, you mind if I stay inside stage and, watch you play a little bit? Oh, no, come on up. And that was my first, I hadn't seen Mayhem prior to that, other than, I wasn't a fan of the music. And I met Runa, and, we just started talking, and I instantly felt sort of this like artistic sort of creative connection with him. And we talked about, one of these days we had to get together and work on some music or something. Yeah, cool. Well, that conversation, went on and on for over 10 years. And finally, I don't know, one night he kind of called me out of the blue and said, yeah, what are you doing? And, I told him what I was doing, and, he's told me what he was doing. He said, so, and then the connection came back around with, well, we really had to work on some music. I said, yep, let's start right now. And that was kind of it. And we, he shared some ideas with me, and we got together and figured it out, and, put the first record together. And the rest is history. We're very different people in a lot of ways, but there's no daylight between us when it comes to art.
Yeah, that's definitely the sense I'm getting as well.
Yeah.
There's kind of there's sort of a confidence in what you're presenting as your art, rather than trying to draw from a bunch of different sources or satisfying, loads of different tastes. It's kind of like, this is what I do, and if you like it, great. If you don't, thanks for coming.
What else can, that's the point. I mean, Rooney has a super distinctive style. I mean, he plays, I don't know anyone else who really plays like he does. He has a very interesting, discordant sense of melody. And it's very melodic. I mean, some of it, it's ugly and miserable, but it's also has this it's warm. Its warmth is its coldness. It's almost like a ceremony of opposites, where it's so ugly it becomes melodic. So anyhow, yeah, and again, I have a lot of respect for him as a player. He feels the same way, and we go in and we just work and work and work and get it where it's going. And quite frankly, it's very organic. Things just come up really quickly. But again, the way that we write is we all sit in a room together. He may have a few ideas, I may have a few ideas, but when we construct them together, then the little nuances of body language and conversation and the mood of the day, all of that can get captured. Whereas if you're only working by yourself, things can be completed. And then you start, you attach yourself to something, and then there is no other way. And, we really enjoy being able to sit across the table from each other and work at a volume that you can essentially be conversational over. And yeah, it's just, that's, sharing this energy makes it a real band.
I think one of the things that I genuinely love about his style, and to me, the standouts where you hear that in action, are the Ruim album that he put out last year.
Sure.
Epic, as well as Auto at KO by Mayhem. He's got this ability to tap into a very wide range of emotions without it sounding forced in any way. Like he'll play a riff that sounds fucking nasty, a real badass masculine music, and then all of a sudden he'll kind of hit you with something where it's like it kind of catches you. It catches you off guard, but it feels like it's a perfectly natural evolution from what he was busy with previously. And
Sure.
To me, that's a real rarity. There's a lot of guitarists that sound technically, extraordinarily well rehearsed. They play better than 95% of musicians on the face of the earth, but there are some musicians that sound like they pick up their guitars and, like I've used the phrase before, fucking lightning is firing from their fingers and music is just coming out. And he's one of those men, without a shadow of a doubt.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, he's a special guy, and his creativity is just I can't even tell you. I probably couldn't count on one hand the number of things that he's done that were like, we can maybe do a little bit better. But again, see, he doesn't force things. I mean, he'll noodle with stuff and whatever, but everything just really, it just flows out nicely. And it's, I hear things and I'm inspired immediately. Like he'll start doing something like, oh yeah, stay there for a second. Okay, great. I just feel this this sense of just being smothered with passion. And it again, it's a good thing. I'm looking forward to getting started on the next record.
That to me is it's another thing that I found particularly fascinating is as a lot of the bands that I grew up listening to, the musicians I grew up listening to, as people grow older, there's definitely it's a smaller group where you can still hear that hunger and that appetite and that excitement about producing and creating new music. There's an awful lot of bands where it really sounds like they are just making metal because it's their job. They're tied to a band name, which is ultimately their brand, which is, it's kind of like I'm going to churn out what's expected of me. And I've got a couple of theories, but I've always been fascinated as to that smaller select group that is able to still, deliver at the very highest level, when they are in their, 50s, sometimes early 60s. What is it that separates them from everybody else? The one observation I've made is, if I think of somebody like Shane Embury or Greg McIntosh from Paradise Lost, they genuinely not only love the music they make, but they genuinely still love music. It doesn't have to be black metal, death metal, anything like that. They just have a hunger for listening to and discovering new music. I was quite keen to get your perspective on that.
I agree with you. Different people. So you can almost tell by the conversation that you have with someone. You meet people in different bands, and what's their life level? How do they mentally process things? What is their vision about their personal state of being? And do they feel, is everything joking? Are they serious? How well read are they? What self-imposed boundaries do they have? And that's all personality thing. I mean, everyone is different. And there's probably not, I wouldn't say that there's a right way or a wrong way. I mean, the only way I know is the way that I do it, because that's what feels right to me. But yeah, I've met people that are just, complete knuckle draggers. And I've met people that are some of the most intellectual, like spiritual people ever. And everything in between. So I don't think that there's a rule, but certainly when you get to what I call lifer status, which is, it's not like you were in a band and then, you went and got a job because, your family situations or whatever, paying bills, what have you. This is what I do. This is what I do. Yes, it is what I do for a living, but I don't know that I have a choice. And that's not from a financial standpoint. That's from a creativity, from an artistic standpoint. Like, I have songs in my head. I can't remember a name to save my life, but I can remember, commercial jingles that were, from the 1970s that went in between cartoons. If there was music involved in it. So it's just kind of something that's, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. And that's how I approach everything in life is music to me. Whether I'm just singing, anything from singing in the shower to just going on a long motorcycle ride and just listening to the wind and being inspired by that. Yeah. But again, everybody has their way of doing things, and I don't know if there's necessarily a right way or a wrong way to do stuff. But yeah, part of my thing is always yearning to say more and to explore new things. There are some bands who they get their sound, quote unquote, and they get that dialed in, and you can pretty much expect that You know, the next record is going to sound, almost verbatim to the last record. Maybe some production differences, or this guitar sound a little more this way, or this drum sound a little more that way. But it's what you're going to get. With me, see, I don't know what I'm going to do. It just comes naturally, and whatever it is whatever it's going to do, and I lean on that. I lean on just being as organic and as spontaneous as possible.
So where do you find you're at your most creative? Like, is there a certain time of day? Is there a certain thing that you might be doing? Because I have my entire life had music playing in my head constantly. Like, I mean, it's literally like there's a hi-fi in my brain, and we're changing records as we go on. But I always have music in my head. I read bizarrely enough a little while back that that's supposed to be some sort of mental disturbance, but be that as it may, it's never been an issue for me. But like, I've not done much music writing myself, but I have attempted, and exactly as you say, there are, like, sometimes you'll hear something in nature, or you hear the sound of the wind, or I mean, with me, particularly when I was younger doing chores, you hear the sound of the lawnmower, and that would inspire me to stuff. But like, where are you? Like, where are you at your most creative?
It depends. I like a lot of alone time. I live out in the middle of nowhere, thankfully, so I don't have a lot of distractions. And other than the distractions that I allow in, that's I mean, for example, I have a cell phone. It never goes in the bedroom with me. That's what voicemail's for. I deliberately sort of decide what is going to come into my life and what is not. And I know that if I go downtown and I'm maybe going to see a show or whatever, that I'm going to have to deal with a fair amount of interaction, and I'm fine with that. And when I'm working, when we're on tour or whatever, there's a lot of interaction. When I'm at home, there's little to none other than, with my family. And that's how I keep my balance.
Yeah. So we have that in common, by the way. I know you live on a ranch. I live on one as well. We don't have cattle, but we do have horses, and it's not massive. It's about probably, I think, 11 acres. But we made the move in October of 2020. When by that point I just had it with the lockdowns and all the other bullshit. My partner is very much into horses, so her parents had bought this piece of land with the idea that there were going to be 2 houses built on it. Well, there's 2 houses already, but one would be extended, and there'd be kind of a main home and a smaller home. The idea is we living in the smaller home, and when we have kids, we'll swap. But long story short, I will say it is fucking life-changing to be in the middle of nowhere. I mean, the degree of stress that has exited my life, how much healthier and happier I feel not being surrounded by the fucking racket of the city.
It can get really well. A city with anytime that you're, see, I've never believed that humans are meant to live on top of each other like they do in some of the big cities. All the cities are crowded. Everything's too crowded. There's way too many people, quite frankly. And, when you have people, when things get so diverse that pretty much nobody gets along and nobody agrees about anything, it just creates stress that, I don't need that in my life. I don't think anybody does. I mean, some people kind of get off on that and want to be like in the head of the rat race, right? That's just not me. I mean, there was a time probably when that was a little bit more workable for me. But at this point, I feel like it's almost a vampire, and it just sucks the life out of me. And so I've made some decisions that this is not going to happen anymore.
When did you make the move to the ranch?
So it's an interesting story, actually. we had a home in a pretty nice, well, sort of like neighborhood, right? When we moved there, it itself was a neighborhood that was out a bit. It wasn't so close in and jammed in there.
Yeah.
So we got there, and we were there. And, it was really nice. We lived there for 8 years, and I noticed that there's a lot of people moving, and there was a whole bunch of new neighborhoods getting built, and so the road that I could get on the highway to go to, say, downtown Austin or whatever. It was about 5 to 7 minutes drive from my house to be able to get onto that road. No big problem. Well, at the point where we moved, that was about 45 minutes because of all the new development and more traffic lights, more all this stuff, and it's just like, gosh, I'm really starting to feel closed in here. That quenched with the fact there was a really, really major storm. We had the ranch. We just didn't live here yet. So we came out. We'd always come out on the weekends and work with the animals. And we had driven separately. And I went to leave, and she was going to be supposedly right behind me. Well, there was this major snowstorm, and we don't really have that. I mean, there may be some flurries or what have you in Texas, but nothing like this. This is like a real big deal because it happens so infrequently. And I'm talking about maybe 60, 70 years that we don't have sort of like all the plows and snow blowing equipment and any of this kind of stuff here, because it's just, it would literally sit there and rust for 60 years until they needed to use it again.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I managed to I was about halfway home, and it was snowing pretty bad. And I noticed that there was a number of cars that were on the side of the road, either stuck or went off, nobody was how to drive in it. So I called my wife and I said, hey, if you don't leave like shortly, you may not be able to leave. And she said, well, I've got some more stuff to do. And then I spoke to her after a while. She said, I'm just going to stay, spend the night here, and I'll come home tomorrow. Well, that didn't happen. And the weather got really, really, really severe. Long story short, she got stranded at the ranch for a week with no power, no running water, and, trying to, out there with an icebreaker to break the pond open so that the animals could drink water. And I'm at home, and I couldn't leave because everything was just ice. I mean, I couldn't get up the driveway. So it was kind of a religious experience. This is something we talked about, but we hadn't made any kind of, move towards that. She got home. She goes, that's it. We got to move. We got to make this happen. And I was like, okay, here we go. So
it's kind of the universe was pushing you in that direction.
Exactly. And it's just, again, it's so peaceful out here. I mean, my closest human neighbor is about 2.5 kilometers away. There's no street lights. There's no light pollution. I walk outside and I see stars, and that is our street lights, the stars and the moon. Other than unless I turn a light on, but there's no, it's just, it's great being surrounded when all your neighbors have 4 legs, and it just changes your whole perspective on things. And I'm pretty happy that it worked out the way that it did.
It's a similar setup here as well. Obviously, we have her parents here, but besides that, it's 5 horses, 10 cats, which that was a stray. Not as my fiance works at a vet, and they handed in a stray. She felt too bad for the cat. Thought that the cat was going to get put down, and lo and behold, we inherited her. And then next thing you know, she started ballooning up, and we said, well, she can't be from drinking beer. So what is she getting fatter from? And oh, by the way, she's got 6 kittens. And then we gave away the first one, and then Paige was like, no, I can't. I can't part with the others. This is too traumatic. So 10 cats, 3 dogs. But I fucking love it. I didn't grow up on a farm or anywhere rural. I grew up in a city. I lived in London for probably 15, 16 years, maybe a little more. I enjoyed part of that time. But now when I go back, it just, because I have to go back there for work, it just feels weird.
Claustrophobic, probably, right?
Yeah.
And
exactly as you say,
problem.
everyone's on top of each other. No, there's social friction, there's physical friction. It's just not for me.
Yeah. No, I trust me, man. I get it. That's where I'm at.
You guys farm with Texas Longhorns, right?
We have some Longhorns. Yeah, we have Longhorns. We have Angus. That's the cash crop, the Angus.
So that was going to be my question. Would there be David Vincent steaks, not branded as such?
No. Just I mean, it's just we just breed, and they get to a certain point, and then they go to a feedlot.
Okay.
So it's just you always want the heifers pregnant, and then they have once they're done weaning, maybe select a couple. You have to look at them and see, okay, this one's going to grow up to be strong and whatever, make a good breeder. Keep the bulls down to there's 3 bulls, and they got their work cut out for them. But their only job is to make sure that they're all the heifers are pregnant constantly. So they do a good job with that. And and then the Longhorns are, I mean, it is cattle. You could eat them. It's almost more of a hood ornament here in Texas, because they're amazing. I mean, they're just they're so beautiful. And
are you much of a meat eater?
I mean, I'm a multivore. So I mean, I'm definitely not a vegetarian. I do eat lots of vegetables, but I eat meat. I eat virtually everything.
Yeah. No, I have said, I've never visited Texas, but if I do, I would for about 3 months probably need to just go on some sort of starvation diet. And then it would be straight to Franklin's, straight to, any of the myriad places that they have in Austin, because I mean, I grew up in South Africa, so I've always had barbecuing in my culture, but I really fell in love with Texas barbecue, and actually just frankly the whole kind of Texas lifestyle. But Texas, I mean,
we have the best barbecue in the world, hands down. Yeah. I've been other places, and I mean, everybody has their style of doing stuff. But I mean, I could take you to some places to just knock your socks off. I mean, you wouldn't want to eat anything else. I even have to put limits on myself about that, because it's so darn good.
Can't be traveling to Goldie's every other day. Have you been to Goldie's? Because I saw they've won like best barbecue spot, I think, for 4 years running.
Which one are you on about?
Goldie's.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Where are they based? And the reason I know them is there is a very specific way in which they kind of, there we go, Goldie's Barbecue. Where are they based? There's a very specific way in which they rest their briskets and their beef ribs and things like that. They rest it in tallow, and everyone has kind of copied it over the last probably year, 18 months, but apparently absolutely sensational.
Well, the thing about barbecue in Texas, if you buy barbecue in Texas, it's going to be good, because if it's not good, they go out of business, because it's just, there's too many good ones. That and Tex-Mex, there's just too many good restaurants. So if somebody sucks, they're out of business on their own accord. Because people won't tolerate it.
Which isn't a bad thing, but one day. I just checked now. Goldie's they're based out in Fort Worth.
Okay, yeah, I don't get up there. I don't get up there that much, but I'll look it up next time I am.
Yeah. Getting back to music. So this is kind of salient. So back when you did the Where the Slime Live video, I remember seeing and being extraordinarily impressed by you wearing an ECW t-shirt. And then my friend Cheyenne and I were joking about this at Inferno, saying, you cannot be a good frontman unless you can cut a good promo. you cut a couple of sharp promos on stage with Vltimas. But this is another thing I've been particularly fascinated by over the last couple of years, is the art of being a frontman, the art of fronting a band. And I was, especially my ears kind of pricked up when you referred to yourself as a character on stage. Talk about a little bit about how your persona has evolved as a frontman, because I've seen you a couple of times, outside of Vltimas, and you've never lacked confidence, but there's definitely a refinement, I feel, over the course of maybe the 4 or 5 times I've seen you in the last 2 decades.
Well, it starts with this. I do a lot of different things musically, and I look at each one as its own entity. So, yes, it's me, but there's different sort of atmospheres and different personas that I capture based on the project. So I don't look at everything. Oh, I'm waking up and today we're making hamburgers and tomorrow we're making hot dogs. I don't look at life that way. So with anything I do, it gets its own sort of treatment. So like the country stuff I do is I play acoustic guitar, and it the music's completely different, and super relaxed. And with Vltimas, it's I channel energy through this from a different direction. So I almost allow him to sort of just take over. It's almost it's fun. It's almost like you think about actors. I mean, I'm a huge Clint Eastwood fan, and sometimes he's a sort of rogue, dirty hairy cop, and sometimes he's a man with no name, and sometimes he's a grumpy old guy, trying to keep people from stealing his car.
Yeah.
Each thing is a different. It's him. But each thing is a different approach. So I liken the way I do stuff to be very similar to that.
Now I mentioned the promos that you cut. The one comment that you made, which to me was comment of the weekend, you shouted, "Weakness must be cancelled." So here's my observation of what's going on in the metal scene right now. I find it depressing, the degree of emasculation that I see in the metal scene. And it feels to me like there's this idea that if you embrace the masculinity or your own masculinity in metal, that has to come at the expense of inclusion and women feeling welcome in the scene and women being able to do their thing, which I don't believe in whatsoever. I mean, I think societally, the biggest problem that we have, certainly one of the biggest problems that we have, is a lack of masculinity in society. But what were you kind of referring to when you were saying that?
Well, he was talking about introducing a song called Invictus.
Yeah.
And that whole thing is spawned by, not paying attention to what other people do, and checking the wind before you do anything at all. It's just having your own conviction, your own strength, your own intelligence, and critical thought, and going after with your full being anything that involves that. And I'm quite the rugged individualist. I don't really like, I don't do well being told what to do. I'm not dead and I'm not in jail, so I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
So that's how I live my life. Honor and respect. And I just don't have time for things that don't go in that direction. And that's all I've ever done really for my whole career, is to try to encourage people to think for themselves and to be strong and to, improve their status in life. And a lot of people have, and that's been an amazing. I mean, I have people come up to me all the time that, I was going through some really rough times when I was a kid, and your music kind of pushed me through, and now I own 4 restaurants, and I have a great family, and And I'm like, wow, that's that kind of compliment. You can't buy it. Number one. Number two, being able to have that kind of a positive impact on folks, that's a bigger reward than any drug I can think of.
Yeah, you've always been a very outspoken individual, though. Like I remember. So I mean, this goes back to when I was about 9 or 13 years old, just discovering Morbid Angel. I remember seeing you do your interview with Vanessa Warwick when you guys were on tour with, I think it was Paradise Lost and Creator. Just the way you carried yourself there. I was watching it as a young buck and thinking, this is the coolest motherfucker on the face of the earth. Like, because I was into a lot of different stuff, music wise, and really into metal, but I was always looking for somebody who I felt like at that age I could see as more aspirational. I never really liked the kind of classic drunk rock star falling all over the place, addicted to drugs. None of that ever did anything for me. And I remember reading a follow-up interview with you, and you guys were on tour for Domination, and it was in Metal Hammer. It was one of those stupid things they used to do with, what are we doing on tour? And the two questions posed to you was, what are you guys drinking on tour? And, everybody is like, vodka, cranberry, blah, blah, blah. And you were like, water. Who's the biggest slob in the band? None of us are slobs. And again, that to me was just, it was the antithesis to everything that everyone else was saying. And as I was kind of thinking about some of the stuff we would talk about on this podcast, I was kind of going back to that and thinking, you have always been really like, this is how I am, this is how I do shit, and it's not changing. I'm not going to try and adapt to, or I'm not going to try and adjust or try and fit in or anything like that.
I don't know how to. That's the truth of it. I mean, listen, I can't imagine trying to be someone else. I mean, I'm halfway decent at being me. I'm probably be lousy at trying to be someone else. So I don't even attempt it. I got to do what I do. And that's, sometimes that brings pain, sometimes it brings pleasure, but one thing's for sure, it's honest. And, and that's what I do.
What instilled that in you?
Oh, goodness. There's probably a number of things. I know my parents certainly tried, but as rebellious as I am, they may not have thought that they did a great job. But when I think back today, as an adult, I'm very happy for the discipline and what have you that they instilled in me.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I've spoken to folks about this recently. I grew up in a very, very, very strict Christian household, and again, I was very rebellious. Just having my Covenant CD in the house was, you were skating on a thin line there.
Sure.
And for a long time, we didn't have the best relationship. I think later on in my life, the success I achieved professionally, etc., I do think it kind of made it undeniable to them, and they accepted it. And I suspect it's probably a similar case for you.
Very similar. As a matter of fact, so yeah, we really didn't get along, and there was several year period of time where we didn't speak. And and as you get older, you hopefully get more mature, and you can see things through different eyes. It's probably very difficult for parents to view their children as adults because they have this parenting instinct. And once we got over that, and they realized that, okay, you're speaking to an adult who has carved his way. But I do remember my father outright telling me that if he would have thought, had he known that allowing me to take, music lessons would have led to this, he would have forbade it. Now that's not where he's at today. But they're old. I mean, they're my father's 92 now.
Jesus.
So I know. I mean, he's doing real well. I mean,
I was just about to say, is he in good health?
Oh, it's sharp as a tack. I mean, there's things that that are more difficult. Some things are harder, and well, I guess the things that you want to be harder are softer. But yeah, he's doing well. I mean, you get to a certain point where, I mean, what the hell can you do? I mean, he can't ski anymore. He can't really hunt anymore. So they're just, kind of living the retired lifestyle and just being, loving parents, grandparents, and great grandparents. So.
Is that where you get your youthfulness from? Because I was very impressed with how you moved around on stage. I mean, I've only been on stage a couple of times, and it's fucking exhausting. I mean, you were shucking and jiving. You didn't seem to have any. There was no slowdown in your physicality on stage.
Well, I mean, I live pretty clean. I mean, do I party? Yeah, but in general, especially when I'm on tour, like, I don't touch a drop of alcohol before I get on stage. I just won't do it. I've seen what that leads to, and I feel like that's disrespectful to the audience for me to go up there and give them anything but, 100% of what I got. Right. Now, a lot of people, different people have different opinions about that. But that's my opinion. That's how I work. Afterwards, have a few beers, whatever. But again, thinking about tomorrow is, the next show is just as important as the one that you did, and keeping, keep staying healthy on tour, because, let's face it. I mean, if I get sick, if Rooney gets sick, he may not feel good, but that doesn't affect his instrument.
Yeah.
If I get sick, then there's my instrument. So I have to take extra care of those things, drinking plenty of water, not going out afterwards and partying until 3 a.m, trying to shout over a DJ in a loud club. It just doesn't work. So.
And I don't know about you, but as I've grown older, I've truly come to detest the feeling of being hungover, to such a point that I don't even really like the feeling of being drunk, because I know the consequence of being drunk, right? So on the rare occasion, I'll go over the line. I mean, I really enjoy red wine, and I like to have a couple of beers when I'm barbecuing, but besides that, I'm not a big drinker, just because hangovers to me is a fucking day wasted, and I'm too busy to waste a day.
Sure. I agree.
I think also when you have a ranch, and I don't know how big yours is, but I mean, I know the amount of work involved in maintaining a ranch. You don't want to do that shit when you're hungover.
Well, you don't want to do anything when you're hungover, quite frankly. No. Just sit there and take a big red magic marker and cross that day off the calendar.
Yeah,
and I have those from time to time. I mean, sometimes we'll just we'll have a blowout out here, and we'll have some friends over and a bonfire, and it'll go till jackass o'clock in the morning, and and then but it was planned for.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
So getting back again to the individuality, let me ask you, and we'll kind of start going around the bend on this now. So let me ask you quickly about the Jane Pratt Show, 1993, where you were sat across from Tupac and gave a very erudite answer to a guy ranting and raving about the police. Can you still remember anything about that day?
So it's interesting. There's some snippet of it sort of floating around the internet.
Yeah.
It's very incomplete. It was edited just to get this like one soundbite. Vaguely, I remember. I mean, we were doing a lot of that kind of stuff at the time. I don't have like clear recollection of it. But I do remember doing it. Yeah.
I do think, to me, the height of Western entitlement is the idea that you should be entitled to a safe space physically, a safe space emotionally, and there should be no one should be paid, or there should be no cost to pay in maintaining that safety. So there should be no police. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, no, I'm very much on board with this. I'm not talking about crooked cops running around and beating people up for fun and
No, of course not.
shooting innocent people, but the vast majority of police that I know are very honest, very hardworking people who deal with enormous amounts of stress and challenge that most civilians will never in their fucking lives encounter.
Well, essentially, I mean, what it boils down to, they're just babysitters for folks that had, poor home training.
Mm.
And so they're running around, breaking up, husband and wife getting into a spat, or people, going and somehow believing that they're entitled to just take something that someone else had to pay for. I mean, none of these things they're not helpful.
Mm.
Now, personally, I don't call the police. I try to handle everything myself. I just don't like having things escalate.
Mm.
But that's me. But yeah, there's a problem. There's a perception problem, and then there's people just acting out in such a way that they shouldn't be doing, and then there's a price to pay for it.
Mm.
So, everybody's got to figure that out. That's one thing, man. Every single person on this planet, they got their little red wagon. They're either going to push it or pull it up or down a hill, and they're going to do what they're going to do. And as soon as they start infringing on others, then they're in the wrong.
Yeah.
And it gets dealt with one way or another.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've said many times, like, you can do and be whatever you want, just as long as it never comes at my expense. So that's the way that I see it.
Well, there's no such thing as a crime without a victim.
Yeah.
And, whatever you do, don't hurt children.
Yeah, 1,000%. What else have you got coming up in the next couple of months? Goodness,
lots of touring, back and forth. We got between Morbid and Terrorizer and Vltimas. I'm going to be living on planes. Unfortunately, that's the worst part. I love making music. I love connecting with the fans. I love recording. I love performing. This whole flight experience, especially these days, where the price goes up and the service gets worse, and they're losing stuff, and they're cramming additional seats in there, and it's really not possible to get comfortable on an 11-hour flight. You just can't do it unless you're spending whatever it is, $8,000 on a first class seat. Yeah. And then well, why am I doing this? Because all the money went to just being comfortable, and then you almost it becomes pay to play at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, the actual travel is annoying, but being there and doing what I do is priceless.
So I'm going to ask you one last question, and then we'll wrap it up. Yes, you have played with, throughout your career, I mean, I don't actually think there's a single person who could say in this scene they have played with as many on record, on stage, of the elite as far as musicians are concerned. Who are the one or two musicians that you were just absolutely, that you played with, that you were just absolutely blown away by?
You're talking about like other bands, like touring, or
no? So guys that you've been in bands with, that you've recorded music with.
Wow. I don't want to. It's a big list. I don't want to leave anyone off of it. But let's just say that Rooney is at the top of the list right now.
Awesome. Well, that is a perfect way to end off what has been a very fun conversation. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And again, the 13-year-old in me is probably pinching himself somewhere, going, Jesus Christ, who would have thought at the age of 44 you'd be talking to the dude who was laying the law down on Vanessa Warwick.
Well, listen, it's been a fun conversation. I appreciate your time as well. Thank you for all the compliments that you've given me during this discussion, and look forward to seeing you out on the road somewhere.
Yeah, hopefully we bump into each other. That'll be great. And if you guys can play in the UK again, I will most certainly be there.
There's plans brewing on that right now. So
awesome, excellent. Well, thank you so much, David. Enjoy the rest of your day.
My pleasure. Cheers.
Take care. Bye bye. That's a track called Spoils of War by Vltimas off their brand new album Epic. It's available right now on Season of Mist. Massive thank you to David Vincent for his time. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. Like I said, it's a little different to the ones that you may have heard elsewhere, but I hope that I presented something, or a side of him at least, that folks haven't necessarily seen before. And equally, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, hopefully that is not the last time that he appears on the show. We spoke a little bit afterwards. Certainly seemed to have enjoyed the conversation, which is good, because I'm not going to lie, I watched a lot of interviews with this guy, and obviously I've been following him through most of my life, but most people always seem to be incredibly intimidated by him, and I wouldn't necessarily say I was intimidated, but you kind of know that you don't want to fuck it up, right? The sense of the occasion lands with you just a tad. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, let me know. If you didn't, fuck off. Right now, my friends, we're not going to do any reviews because I've been super busy and I've not had a chance to, really do the review treatment for a lot of the great new releases that are coming out. I mean, I can tell you offhand, the new My Dying Bride, the new High on Fire, and the new Antichrist Siege Machine records are all brilliant and probably in the running for spots on the top 30 of 2024. But I will, and I promise that I'll do this, I will do a proper review roundup at some point very soon. You guys just need to bear with me. The old deadlines are looming, and my day-to-day is pretty crazy, so I'm actually recording this late on a Monday night for you guys to see this the next day. That being said, nothing's going to stop me from doing a news rant, which is going to be coming up in just a bit, but before we get to that, I mentioned I was going to play a new Trivax music video, so sit back, enjoy, because this is the music video, the second music video to come off of the fantastic Eloah Burns Out album that Trivax put out last year. It is a little triggering for those of you of sensitive dispositions, but I personally think it is an extraordinarily well-made video. It's something that I think everybody has to see. I think it carries an important message as much as it fucking whips all sorts of behind. So this is Against All Opposition. That is Against All Opposition, taken off the new Trivax album, Eloah Burns Out. It's available on Cult Never Dies Records. Brilliant stuff. Cheyenne has been a podcast guest many times. And many of you have suggested that he and I should be doing a monthly show together. Neither of us, I think, are opposed to the idea. I think it's just a matter of finding the time to do it. But I do think it'd be fucking brilliant to do that. I mean, I love talking to him. We have a boatload in common, but I think we also challenge each other's views enough for it to not sound like, two people, talking to each other and going, yeah, I agree. Oh, that sounds brilliant. Jesus, you're so clever. So none of that. I think we could do something that is that's pretty interesting if we did a monthly show. And who knows? Maybe we could do it as kind of a recurring segment. So. Well, not recurring segment, but just a cyclical thing. So 1 month we do it on Into the Necrosphere, the other month we do it on Iblis. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But that aside, even if you hate the sound of our voices, you have to check out that new Trivax record. I am still, and I've said this to him directly, as some of you will know, I am blown away by the fact that band is not much bigger yet. I do think it's coming. I really think it's just a matter of time before Trivax get the right opportunity to play in front of a bigger audience, and they will be fucking huge. They have a fascinating story to tell. Cheyenne is a very charismatic frontman, a very capable frontman, and he's also very self-aware, which I think is very good because you can see him evolve and get better as that band progresses. With every single album, EP release, what have you. You can also catch them, by the way, on tour with Diocletian if you're in Europe. And I believe, in fact, he confirmed it on the last podcast appearance that, he made on Into the Necrosphere. They're going to be touring with Oculus at the end of the year, which, I mean, that's going to be incredible. Also, a reminder in case you forgot, and equally I forgot to mention it at the top of the show, so I'm mentioning it now. I'm going to be at Fortress Festival in Scarborough in the UK on the 1st and 2nd of June. I'm actually going to be on stage doing interviews with a couple of different bands. I will also be doing a follow-up conversation with Dale Patterson on stage. I'll record all of those and release them probably just on the YouTube channel, although I could probably do audio versions for Spotify, Apple, and whatnot as well. But yeah, there'll be a couple of live interviews that get done. We're planning a live podcast also with a guest who I shan't announce just yet, but it is a guest that many of you are keen on seeing me get onto the show. I'm pretty confident the Legion are going to applaud very loudly if I manage to make that happen. But if you're at Fortress and you see me, let's have a beer. Very much looking forward to that. And if you're a fucking audio nerd and you're going to be in Munich on May the 8th, 9th, 10th, and I believe it's the 11th as well, I'm going to be there for the duration of the Munich high-end hi-fi show, joining a bunch of decrepit old men listening to jazz on obscenely expensive stereo systems, just waiting for my opportunity for somebody to say, what would you like to listen to? And innocently I'll say, what about some mayhem? So, all right. On that note, my friends, if your Facebook or Instagram or Twitter profile photo is an anime character, then it's time to hit the bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
All right, Legion, I'm going to crack open a can of Camden Hells for that sweet North London flavor. And I am actually recording these episodes across different days, by the way. So I'm conscious I drink these an awful lot. I'll stress once again, I'm not sponsored by them in any way. And as much as I've said that I'll stay away from Patreon or from anything to monetize the show, the one sponsorship I actually would consider is Camden Hells, because the beer is fucking great. I'm not even a big beer drinker, but I just love these. So I'm going to have me a little sip, and then we're going to get over to metalstorm.net, and we're going to look at some news headlines. God damn. Right, first up, Fellwarden are presenting a brand new song. It says here, Fellwarden present Exultance song. Atmospheric black metal bringers Fellwarden have launched a brand new song, it says, called Exultance. The latter is taken from the upcoming album entitled Legend, due out on June the 14th, 2024 through Eisenwald. Let's listen. So, for those of you that don't know, Fellwarden feature the vocal stylings of The Watcher, otherwise known as Frank Allen, of the band Fen. If you didn't catch it, the Fen album Monuments to Absence that came out last year is absolutely magnificent. I would argue it is better than what I've heard on the first 1 minute 47 seconds of this track. Although I do quite like this. Fellwarden, I probably spent a bit more time with their debut, which came out back in 2017. It was a record called Oathbearer. Than I did with its follow-up, Wreathed in Morn Cloud, which by all accounts actually got probably more positive reviews. Yeah, this has potential. I think the question that I find myself asking is, do I have an appetite to listen to an entire record of this style of black metal? Because yes, it's billed as atmospheric black metal, but it's quite different to something like Austere out of Australia, who recently put out an absolutely top-notch record, and probably in terms of atmosphere leans into the style that I am probably more of a fan of. But that being said, let's get back to it. I want to hear where the song goes next. No doubt, The Watcher sounds great, and the music is not bad, but I think this is one I would place on the watch list rather than on the must-listen list. And that may potentially mean that it takes until, at the rate that new releases of unbelievable quality is being dropped this year, it may well mean that I revisit Fellwarden at some point in 2026. This, again, is the problem. There is just so much coming out right now that is unbelievable that I barely get time to listen to the tier 1 stuff as it is. So, will I be drawn to something like Fellwarden? I'm not sure. No doubt there's a lot of talent in the band. I'm certainly not disputing that. But is there enough to convince me? I don't know. Burzum have launched a new track. Now, if there's one thing I didn't think I would see, and that is a new Burzum track in 2024, I am assuming, I've not heard the song, but I'm assuming that it's more fucking about on the keyboard like the tripe that he put out previously. That may have its audience. I am certainly not one of them. But I am a massive Burzum fan of the early stuff, up to and including Philosophem. Again, I think I could do without a lot of the synth nonsense, the synth twiddling that he used to love indulging in, and became his bread and butter later on. But there's no getting around it. Detsom Engangvar has got some fucking incredible songs on. Philosophem obviously has, in my view, one of the quintessential black metal tracks ever written, Dunkelheit, which is then followed very shortly thereafter by the almost as genius Hesus Dort. And then on the Hivis Leiset Taros record, that again has got some really top-notch stuff. The song Detsom Engangvar, if you've not listened to that yet, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself, as they say. But anyway, it says here, The Magic of the Grave is the title of the newest 8-minute-long music piece from Burzum. You can give it a listen via the YouTube player down under. I will do so. Thank you very much. Got to be honest with you, if somebody played this to me and didn't mention that it was Burzum, that experiment of listening to the first 80 seconds of the song would have ended 40 seconds ago. It sounds to me, or at the very least, I would have skipped ahead by 4 minutes to see if the song actually starts to pick up some tempo, and we're going to do that very shortly. But it sounds to me like somebody who's just picked up a guitar, and 3 months later they've managed to work their way around the fretboard. They've bought themselves a distortion pedal, and they're going to record them some music. That's what would have come out. A mildly capable songwriter could have written that. It's certainly not the same dude that put out genre-breaking material back in the early 90s. So I'm going to jump ahead by 4 minutes, because you never know, this might still turn into one of the greatest black metal songs ever written. Somehow, I doubt it, but we'll find out. And yeah, as it transpires, 4 minutes later, we're still fucking about on the same melody. Not my tempo. I will always respect the music that he put out back in the day, and I'm sure that it goes without saying, but I shan't respect the man, but I respect the music. But yeah, that's just not my thing. Right, news has broken that Samael are recording tunes for a next long player. It says here, Swiss veterans Samael have checked in from the studio where they are tracking down new tunes for their next long player, the successor to 2017's Hegemony, which of course was borderline unlistenable. We can expect more info soon. Stay tuned. I don't expect anything particularly interesting to come from this, but the one thing about Samael that will always be the case for me, those first 3 albums were absolute masterpieces. And it's nice in the evolution of the cult black metal book. I like the fact that Dale, gave the band their due, because I do kind of feel like they get overlooked in the discussion about early and influential black metal. And if you haven't listened to it in a while, go back and check out Blood Ritual and Ceremony of Opposites. They are both magnificent. I've used that word once already, but it's very relevant here. Spectacular, sensational, masterful. Blood Ritual in particular wasn't always my favorite Samael record, but it has become my favorite Samael record. And I could fuck with Rebellion, the Rebellion EP that they put out back in 1995. I even quite like Passage, so it's not that I completely abhor the more sort of melodic industrial stuff that they did, but it lacks the bite that those early records possessed. And I certainly don't see them going back to that. I don't think they've got it in them anymore. They tried to do black metal on that. I think the record was called Above, but even that was, it just didn't cut the mustard. It didn't convince. Some very sad news. Eddie Sutton, the frontman for the very influential hardcore band Leeway, passed away. It says here, Eddie Sutton, lead singer of the iconic New York hardcore thrash metal band Leeway, died last Friday, April the 19th, after a 3-year battle with stage 3 adenocarcinoma. He was 59 years old, and a funeral for him will be held this coming Tuesday, the 23rd of April. In other news, a benefit concert in honor of Sutton is scheduled to take place at the Debonair Music Hall in Teaneck, New Jersey, on June 14th. Lots of posts about this on the socials. A couple of folks that are in my social media orbit knew the man. The great Sheriff Mike Scandato posted something, or posted a photo with him and Eddie, and a very simple but quite touching message. So my condolences to all of his family and friends. Unfortunately, another legend has left us far too early, in my opinion. 59 years old that's no age for a man to leave us, and especially not to something like cancer. So very sorry to hear that. The band Decadent out of Slovenia will put out their new studio album Dionist on May the 30th, 2024 via Dusktone Records. I can't actually recall hearing Decadent's music, but that may potentially change. Who knows? Edge of Sanity are putting out a remixed version of the song Twilight. Actually, I think it might be the album Twilight. It says here, Century Media Records and Inside Out Music are thrilled to unveil the first chapter of a comprehensive catalog reissue for iconic Swedish death metalers Edge of Sanity and the diverse prog hard rock band Nightingale, both led by all-round musician and producer Dan Swano. Celebrate the rebirth of these albums, now available in previously unreleased formats and enhanced new material, all remastered by Swano. These reissues are not just polished, some feature new remixes, adding further allure. Before you can check out the remixed version of Edge of Sanity's... below you can check out the remixed version of Edge of Sanity's track, Twilight. I do really like Edge of Sanity, and I've spoken about it previously on the podcast, but I will reiterate it for newcomers. An Edge of Sanity record that I highly recommend people check out if they haven't done yet. The album Crimson. Probably, in my opinion, the one that they're best known for, though I might be wrong on that, but came out back in 1996. It is a single track that is 40 minutes on the dot, but it goes through a journey that is a musical journey. It presents a musical odyssey that is just remarkable. It features Michael Ackerfeld of Opeth, doing some really, really cool, clean vocals. It's progressive. It's aggressive. It's just fucking, a must listen. If it ever passed you by, make sure you change that today. And then another one that I would really recommend people check out if they haven't done yet is Unorthodox. But I will pause there and let's hear what Twilight sounds like.
Close your eyes and whisper goodbye. You will never see how I cry. I can recall what you said to me once. If I leave, there will be a sign. Twilight will show me tonight.
So Twilight was originally taken off of a record called Purgatory Afterglow. Sorry, it originally featured on Purgatory Afterglow, I should say. It came out on Black Mark Productions in October of 1994. And I was racking my brain trying to remember whether it had the same clean sung intro. Because in 1994, you would have gotten your fucking ass beat listening to music like that. Not listening to music like that, singing clean like that at the beginning of a death metal album. So I have to remind myself what the original sounded like, if you all will indulge me. I've got a copy of it on YouTube that I've just tracked down. Let's listen to what the original sounded like.
Close your eyes and whisper goodbye. You will never see how I cry.
Well, it shows how long ago I listened to Purgatory Afterglow, because I completely forgot about that intro. And as I said, in the circles I moved around in, you would have gotten your ass beat for singing like that back in 1994. They did make up for it and then some on Crimson. There's no doubt about it. with Crimson, they also had some clean singing, but it was just a lot better. That being said, I mean, I'm not opposed to them remixing and putting out this stuff again. In view of the fact that there are so many bands that are putting out, or so many bands that are playing in that Sunlight Studios style, that old school death metal style. Edge of Sanity were one of the innovators of that, and they certainly deserve to receive at least some degree of recognition for what they contributed to the genre. So, and like I said, they were very brave, clearly brave, braver than I gave them credit for. Okay, next up, Frozen Soul present a White Zombie cover. US death metal squad Frozen Soul present their rendition of the White Zombie song Creature of the Wheel. The latter was originally released in 1995 as part of the Astro Creep 2000 Songs of Love, Destruction, and Other Synthetic Delusions of the Electric Head record, which I happen to think is brilliant. I don't fucking care how false that makes me, or if people want to, say, oh, look at old Jackson, poser, blah, blah, blah. The Astro Creep 2000 and Los Exorcisto White Zombie records are fucking absolutely fantastic. Astro Creep 2000 particularly so, as far as I'm concerned. It has got so much groove. It still sounds superb to this day. And I don't think personally it has a bad song on it. And Creature of the Wheel was one of my very favorites. So let's hear whether or not Frozen Soul does it justice. Let's go back to YouTube and hear what the original sounded like. This is one where actually I do know the song very well, but I suspect you can all guess the point that I'm about to make. I rest my case. Bands of all shapes and sizes, don't try and cover White Zombie, because it's just not a band I think that lends itself well to having their music covered. Frozen Soul is a decent band. There's no getting around that. Their actual original music is very cool, but this cover is just falls flat on many levels. First of which is, when you remove, it's a very, very simplistic riff. And actually, that's true of all of White Zombie's songs, all their best songs. If you think of Thunder Kiss 65, I mean, a fucking 8-year-old could play that with about three weeks practice. Their music is incredibly simplistic, but those songs are carried to a large degree by the personality in Rob Zombie's voice. And again, Rob Zombie is not somebody who, in my opinion, always hits it out of the park. But when he is on form, I mean, he is on fucking form, capital F. And if you remove the personality from a song like Creature of the Wheel, when you remove that voice, that personality in the vocals, then the song just falls flat. And no disrespect to the Frozen Soul vocalist, because when it comes to death metal, he's very good. He's certainly, very, he's very capable and competent, and you can see why Frozen Soul gets the amount of kudos that they do. But his voice doesn't lend itself well to to a song like this, to a cover like this. If they wanted to do this, they should have at least have done something a little bit different with the vocals, I think. And actually they should have not stripped the song down as much, because if we go back to it, like they've actually taken some of the layers away, and when you take layers out of a White Zombie song, again, you kind of reveal it for how simplistic it is, and then it just doesn't work to me anymore. Probably the best thing about the song is the music video. And you all know my thoughts on music videos generally. I think the vast majority of them are utterly shit and completely unnecessary. But on that particular track, the music video is very cool. Too bad the song is not. Okay, next up, we've got Satanic North, who have unveiled the music video for the song Village. It says here, to celebrate the release of their self-titled debut album, black metal purveyors Satanic North premiere a brand new music video for the single Village. So this song has a great music video, and the song is fucking kick-ass. Of course, this comes off the self-titled record that they put out this weekend, another in a slew of absolutely top-tier releases. And for those that also don't know, this band features two members of Insiferum, whose music is very, very different to the music that Satanic North made or make. For my money, definitely preferable as far as the kind of stuff that I like listening to. I dig it, really like it. It is very well written, Finnish style black metal that might not necessarily be the most original thing you'll ever hear, but the magic lies in the execution, as I've said about many other songs that I've come to enjoy on the news rant. And I've actually not spent a lot of time listening to Satanic North yet, but I will certainly change that because I dig this very much. Let's give it another 60 seconds. every element here is as it should be, I think. Production sounds killer. I like the old school aesthetic and the old school riffing style. The vocals sound superb. I'd say maybe the one, and when I say what I'm about to say, this is fractional. This is fractional. The drums could maybe be a little bit better. They're not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but they could be a little bit more maybe expressive is the right word. But other than that, I love it. Thumbs up from me, without a doubt. Thumbs up from me, and best song I've listened to on the news rant thus far this week. Gorgoroth have confirmed European fall shows. It says here Gorgoroth are pleased to announce a third part of their Black Revelation tour over Europe. Booked in November, it encompasses 10 shows in total. My personal opinion is if it doesn't feature Gaul or King of Hell, it is not Gorgoroth. It's not the Gorgoroth I'm interested in listening to. Some may differ from me on that or in that regard, but I feel strongly about this. I just don't think that those songs sound anywhere nearly as punchy without those Gaul vocals. I'll tell you who needs to bring out some new music. We need a new Galsverd record. So far we've had the full length and the EP, both of which are 10 out of 10 masterpieces. But he must surely be busy with something. I have heard rumors that he may be doing a new Trolldom, which would be fucking great, because Till Minna is one of the true, that's like one of those if you know records, right? There's not a lot of people that you're going to approach, even if they've been into the style of music for a long time. Like how you separate the real ones from the buyers from the triers, as they say. You ask them, Till Minna, and if they don't immediately go, fucking brilliant record, came out on Regain in 2007, then they're not truly true TRVE. So, anyway, right, let's move on. Hellbutcher, a new black metal band featuring former members of Swedish Maniacs Niflheim. It says here, from the depths of the black metal underground comes one of its most elite figures with a new band and an even more evil attitude. As frontman of legendary Swedish Maniacs Niflheim, Hellbutcher upheld the bad name of real black metal with an iron fist, teaming up with old compadres, guitarists Necrophiliac, also of Mordant, and Iron Beast, bassist Eld, and drummer Devastated, who is also formerly of Niflheim. Hellbutcher quickly set out about bringing his vision to life. In a short time, they had amassed enough material to record their raging self-titled debut album, which will be out on May the 31st. For a preview, check out a video for the first streaming single, The Sword of Wrath. One thing they definitely don't lack here is songwriting chops, and you know, one of the things that made Niflheim, you know, such an appealing band was that they, you know, always managed to weave in those really meaty, nasty, evil-sounding hooks. You know, for my money, Devil's Force is certainly one of the strongest in the Niflheim back catalogue, and I fucking loved Envoy of Lucifer that came out in 2007. And this, to me, is along similar lines. So I think if you like those records, you're going to be down with us. By the way, as I've paused the video, you won't see this if you're listening to it, but in the More Videos tab that pops up anytime that you do that I do pause, one of the biggest douchebags, maybe on the face of the earth, Finn McKenty, has a video recommended. Which, yeah, I don't understand the appeal to that guy. If ever there's somebody who, I mean, he does a lot of these similar kind of train of consciousness videos to what I do with the news rant, but I just find him to be a fucking weasel. There's no other way to describe him. Anyway, back to the song. Great, top notch, in my view. If you like old school blackened thrash, you are going to love this. It's well written. It's played with conviction. And like I said, those hooks that you got on Niflheim are very present here. So kudos to Hellbutcher. Great stuff there. Let's move on, folks. I'm not going to listen to, or I'm not going to attempt to listen to another Inter Arma track. I tried that a couple of weeks ago, and it didn't cut the mustard. We also, or next up, I should say, Mayer have dropped a new song. It says here, before their debut album And the Universe Keeps Silent hits the streets tomorrow, death metal ensemble Mayer offer in listening the last advanced single called Traumland, in brackets, Ascending the Abyss. Mayer, of course, the name of the greatest Ruins of Everast song, and on this topic there can be absolutely no debate. So the fact that they're borrowing that word, in my view, means that the expectations should be sky high. Let's hear what it sounds like. Okay, before I I decree my opinion before I proclaim my thoughts. I think I do need to skip ahead to about the 4th minute because the song is 8 minutes 32 seconds long. I will give them their due. I'll give them their. I'll give them room to do an intro, but there's only so much room you can sound the way they sounded on those first 90 seconds without getting without meriting a scathing rebuke from yours truly. I should have said also, and I didn't notice this until the song started, not only have they taken the name of the greatest Runes of Everest song of all time, but they're also signed to Transcending Obscurity Records, and in my view, Transcending Obscurity Records have consistently put out such great music over the last couple of years that, you know, I expect a certain caliber from them when it comes to releasing, any band. A certain level of quality control, I think, to their roster. And look, I said scathing rebuke is what it's going to earn. I was partly bullshitting. It's not horrific. But it's not good either. Let's be honest. Let's hear where we're at. We're at the 4-minute mark, but so far this is a must miss. I'm afraid that's a strong pass. The song just doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. The vocals sound out of place. The discordance, dissonance and discordance in a song is great when it's done the way that Nightmare do it, or the way that, if we look at black metal, the way that Deathspell Omega do it, the originators of that. But this just feels plodding. It feels like a overweight old man trying to run a fucking marathon in quicksand. That's what it feels like to me. I'm trying to think, is there anything about it that is particularly vindicating? No, not really, because even the production sounds a little bit thin to me. It just doesn't sound like anything that I would want to listen to. Again, not in 2024, not in the climate of fucking, or the golden age of excellence that we are in currently. Because we should all, as fans of heavy music, be going down on our knees every single fucking day and praising whoever we worship for the bounty that we are receiving every single fucking weekend. It's mind-blowing. I just don't know what place there is for Mayera or Mayer or whatever they're called in that environment, in the modern urban extreme music environment. Okay, Gatecreeper have unleashed Masterpiece of Chaos, the 3rd advanced track from their forthcoming Dark Superstition album, out on May the 17th through Nuclear Blast. I've always been a bit iffy on Gatecreeper. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I'm a bit indifferent. But let's hear whether or not the song has the chops to keep us excited. By the way, that racket that you just heard in the background was Bailey barking, not an extra sample or extra brutality that was used in the Gatecreeper song. That is pretty goddamn good. That's good Gatecreeper. I think the opening riff is. I think it's so strong. There was a part of me that was almost kind of hoping that was what they were going to build the song on, like that they wouldn't go into the blast beat, speedy stuff. But actually, when they do get into it, it stays pretty good. The intensity is there. I think that Chase Mason's voice sounds fucking excellent. And, bringing it back to when we listened to Edge of Sanity earlier, you can very clearly hear the influence there. But this blends all the best bits of Entombed, Dismember, all of those Sunlight Studio bands, into something that can still sound, pretty modern and pretty cool. So I am on board with this, for sure. That smacks hard. And you can tell the way that it was written, that is custom designed for pain in the mosh pit, which I personally respect. I love bands that write with the idea of what it's going to sound like live, and knowing how, bands that demonstrate an awareness of the fact that chaos doesn't necessarily translate to great live or to a great live experience, I think is fucking cool. I really like this, and I'm all of a sudden finding myself pretty excited about the next Gatecreeper record. I am sure that I've listened to some of the other singles off of this record, because this is the third one that they've put out, as we said. I'm positive I haven't missed the other two, but I can't remember the other two making that big of an impact on me. Certainly not as much as what this song has made. But either way, I think that earns a top notch. Okay, next up, we've got Full of Hell. They are streaming a new track called Coagulated Bliss, along with a music video. It says here, Full of Hell will release a Will Mecha-directed music video for the title track of their oncoming 6th studio album, Coagulated Bliss. The latter drops on April the 26th on Closed Casket Activities. Last time we listened to Full of Hell, they earned a top notch, I believe. And I have just reminded myself I need to email their PR agent about seeing if I can get somebody from the band on the podcast, because let's say if the next song is as fucking killer as the first single that we listened to, then it's a done deal. I need to beg, plead, get them on the show. Dig it. It's not as cool as the previous single that we heard, which I think was called Doors to Mental Agony, if I'm not mistaken. But I like it. And you can't have an entire album that sounds exactly like that, because I backtrack. You can, if your name is Antichrist Siege Machine or Nails. But there's very, very few bands that can turn on the intensity like that, maintain it for 26 minutes, and still leave you wanting more at the end. So I like when there's variation, and this sounds like it would present some much needed variation. On a record on a record that is basically out to fuck you up. So I stand by what I said. I'm going to reach out to a couple of folks and see if I can get someone from Full of Hell on the podcast. Okay, we are going to do one more song, and then we'll go check out... this week, let's check out Metal Injection. And of course, I have to do the new 6 Feet Under single. Ascension is the name of the track. It says here, today, 6 Feet Under present their latest new single, Ascension. The latter comes by way of the band's upcoming 14th studio album, Killing for Revenge. It's set for release on May the 10th through Metal Blade Records. Jack Owen elaborates, I wrote the music first with no lyrical ideas in mind. I wanted a small musical phrase that linked the parts together throughout the song. So I wrote a little chord drumful to seg the riffs from the start of the song through to the end. It turned out sounding like early Possessed, according to listeners. I have an archive of riffs, so I dug for some fast-picking parts that would be easy to sing to. Okay, let's hear what it sounds like. That first one was, it was by every other band's standard, let's say by the median quality level of releases coming out in 2024, it was a solid 6 out of 10 in my view. But that is still a very significant increase from the minus 6 out of 10 that was Nightmares of the Decomposed. So let's hear whether Ascension continues that trend. That is pleasant. It's intense. Chris sounds still pretty decent. Doesn't sound as atrocious as he sounded on Nightmares of the Decomposed. The lyrics, once again, sound like something that is the ravings of a 13-year-old. And again, it's the same thinking that I had with Kerry King. If this were a band that no one knew about, that didn't have the legacy of Jack Owen, Chris Barnes, and everybody else in the band, that didn't have the name recognition of 6 Feet Under, would they be signed? I'm not sure that they would be. You guys tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think that they would be signed. Certainly not to Metal Blade. There's definitely people that are going to like this. 6 Feet Under fans are going to dig it. Like, when I say fans, diehards, because I consider myself a fan, at least to a point. I mean, like I said, Haunted, Warpath, fucking phenomenal. There are smatterings across the other records that are great. But they've just, they've not only fallen off by their own standards, in my opinion, but they've fallen way off by the standards set by the rest of the industry, or the rest of the scene. Which is what made it all the more sad to hear, Chris yelling and shouting like a raving lunatic at bands in the scene saying they're rubbish, because it's like, dude, if they're that bad, then show us that you can do something that very demonstrably makes them sound bad, makes them sound as bad as you're describing them as being. Okay, metal injection, and I wanted to go here because last week we spoke about the curious announcement by My Dying Bride that they were cancelling all of their live shows, at least for the remainder of the year. The headline here reads, My Dying Bride reveal profound sense of discontent among the band members as reasons for show cancellations. The production of this latest album was arduous and challenging to such an extent that it has revealed fractures within the band. So the article reads, English doom metalers My Dying Bride released their 15th studio album, This Mortal Binding, this past Friday, yet the joy of the arrival of the record has been overshadowed by the band's decision to cancel all their 2024 tour dates, including a much-anticipated appearance at the Maryland Death Fest. Now, in an official statement, blah, 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 let's just jump straight to the statement. It reads, the production of this latest album was arduous and challenging to such an extent that it has revealed fractures within the band. These tensions had already been observed during the creation of the previous two albums and were only exacerbated during the COVID period. Over the past few months, they have intensified, causing a profound sense of discontent among the band members. The resulting stress and the pervasive feeling of burnout, along with the physical and mental malaise it creates, necessitated a period of time off, which unfortunately impacts live shows. The reason for the lack of an official statement until now is because the band has truly hoped to resolve these internal issues and perform some shows this year while trying to find a resolution in time to satisfy all parties involved. Sadly, this resolution has yet to be found. Regrettably, a lack of understanding and poor communication from our professional partners has resulted in an untimely and chaotic mess from which a recovery is challenging. I'm assuming they're referring there to their booking agent rather than to Nuclear Blast. However, the promoters have now been officially contacted, and it is hoped that steps can be taken to minimize the impact on you all. That is very shitty news, especially in light of the fact that Andrew, when he was on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, seemed so fired up and so excited about the band and where the band was headed, and the fact that the new My Dying Bride record is by far the best thing that band has put out, in my opinion, since Songs of Darkness, Words of Light in 2004. That's how I described it to Andrew when he was on the podcast. I've said it a couple of other times on the podcast also, and I stick by it. Now that the whole record is out and I've spent a fair bit of time listening to the whole thing again this weekend, I mean, it really is fucking magnificent. So the fan in me goes, what are you guys doing? The businessman in me goes, what the fuck are you guys doing? Now is not the time to be retreating from the band. This is your moment. This is your comeback. I just hope whatever it is that has caused this rift can sort itself out. I mean, all of this that I'm about to say obviously is total speculation. But Andrew and Aaron have known each other for the lengthiest period of time across the existence of the band. And then you've got Sean McGowan joining on keyboards and the violin in 2009. You've got Dan Mullins playing the drums from 2007 to 2012 and back in 2023. You've got Neil Blanchett joining on guitars in 2019, and you've got Lena Arbe, I would assume Arbe is how you pronounce her surname, joining on the bass in 2007. I'd be surprised if the rift is between Andrew and Aaron. And both of those dudes, I had them on the podcast. I spoke to them for in excess of an hour. They seemed like reasonable men to me. So, I would be surprised if they're going to do anything to... if they're going to be unreasonably difficult about something. Maybe it's publishing rights. I don't know. But either way, it's shit news. I saw a couple of folks commenting on the socials as well who were going to Maryland Death Fest, especially to see My Dying Bride, and you kind of feel for them, because if that was the band that you were most looking forward to seeing, and you know they've now dropped off the show, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, and it's difficult, right? Because as a fan, you don't want to take things too personally, because these are human beings, musicians making music. They have reasons for doing what they've done, but it still sucks, and it still smarts. You kind of, as a fan, desperately wanted to experience that, and you can't help but feel like, or maybe, I don't know, maybe over-index on the impact that it has on you. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. But anyway, my view, hopefully they managed to get it sorted out. I can't see why they wouldn't, because truly, this is the time that they should be out there showing everybody just how great they actually are. Because Ghost of Orion was a good album, but it wasn't a patch on this record. Feel the Misery was excellent, but I think this is a step up. So anyway, okay. There's also an edit. We'll just skim through a few other headlines on here. There's an editorial here about the threat of AI art. We've spoken about that until we're blue in the face, but I did actually want to play you guys something real quick. So, brother Ralph Schmidt, renowned HORSEMEN associate, and a guy that I'll obviously be seeing at Fortress Festival when he and his band Ulfa play. He sent me something the other day. Actually, sent us, by which I mean the HORSEMEN, the group that we have on Facebook, sent us something on a YouTube channel run by somebody called Andrea Fryer. She asked a tool called Udio to make an AI Depeche Mode song, and I've got to tell you, I was fucking blown away by what I heard. Let me give you guys a quick 60 seconds of the song.
What if your sound lingers in whispers like a mystery? Dress me in your synth waves. I'm here for the symphony. You sway but I'm persistent. Glide with the melody. Echoes of your dark voice, pulsing with consistency.
Now, that's not perfect, and nobody's going to listen to that and go, man, greatest song Depeche Mode ever wrote, and then be completely shocked when somebody tells them it's AI. There are a couple of giveaways. The lyrics are horrific. I don't think that either Dave or Martin would be caught dead writing that trash. But the music's pretty good. The recreation of the vocals, considering this is first generation technology, is fucking scary, in my opinion. I think the real interesting thing is the description of the video. So Andrea writes, up until now, Suno.com has been the big thing in AI music generation, but there's a new kid on the block called Udio.com, blah, blah, blah. I gave it a whirl and was interested to see how it behaved when you put in a band name as a prompt. Suno won't let you do that, but Udio handles it in a smarter way by replacing the band name with suitable prompts. Since Depeche Mode is one of my favorite bands, I decided to experiment and was blown away and decided to share. So she then goes through the prompts that she used. So she said, the prompt I used was Depeche Mode. Udio replaced it with the following 6 prompts for the parts needed to create the song. male vocalist, electronic, synth pop, rock, alternative rock, dark, rhythmic, melodic, atmospheric, nocturnal, alternative dance, mechanical, passionate, cold, longing, somber. And then there's apparently instrumental prompts, and so it goes on. Lyrics were auto-generated by Udio, she says. They're kind of corny and instantly recognizable as AI lyrics. Drown me in your synth waves. I mean, I say instantly recognizable as AI lyrics in the context of Depeche Mode, but we've certainly heard worse. Written by actual living, breathing human beings on the news rant. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys because I was fucking shocked. And I don't know whether I was shocked in a good way, if I'm perfectly honest. It's, we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. I was ranting and raving and saying that, there's no way that machines could recreate the, emotional expression of a human being. And I still don't think that they could. But I would say when it comes to pop music and, maybe a lot of instrumental music, there's a fair few folk that are possibly in quite a lot of trouble. I mean, who knows? In some ways, maybe this is an opportunity for metal. It's kind of like metal might become like craft brewing, or these mom and pop burger joints that everybody loves because it's real. I think there's always going to be a realness to metal. I still don't believe that the machines are going to replace us, but will the machines replace Taylor Swift? I mean, they're probably doing half the fucking work for her right now, so I would argue yes. Anyway, like I said, just thought I would share that out of interest. Let's check out if there's anything else that we want to see. The news about Necrosphere Records, they have reopened after the fire that ravaged the basement of the store. I spoke about that last week. It says here, Necrosphere Records, formerly the Helvete record store, the one with the black metal basement that everyone takes a picture at, including yours truly, recently suffered a fire in their basement. While Necrosphere Records continues to recover, shop owners have taken to Instagram to note that they are back open and they're working on renovating the basement, which I'm very pleased to hear, because that was a historical landmark as far as the black metal scene is concerned. It would have been an absolute shame if the edict came down that building needed to be leveled, which, if that happened in the UK with the fucking obsession with health and safety, it would probably have been the case. But they write on Instagram, the shop is finally open. We emptied the basement and will renovate it as soon as possible, so only the top floor will be available for now. Thanks to all of you who helped out, both physically and by donations. You've been a massive help, and we can't express how much we appreciate each and every one of you. That GoFundMe that was opened by Darren Toms is still open, so you can go and donate to it if you wish. They have now raised over $22,000, which I think is fucking cool. Shows that we give a shit about the music and the culture that we love so much. So I really hope that they get back up and running very soon, and I very much look forward to visiting Necrosphere again next year when I return to Norway, because like I said, I'm going to make that an annual trip without a shadow of a doubt. Next step in the mission for me is to convince a couple of other horsemen to join myself and Cheyenne for that odyssey. But folks, on that positive note, I'm going to wrap up the news rant for this week. That does it for another week. Another installment of Into the Necrosphere is in the books. I will be back next week. My guest will be Matt Pike and Jeff Matz of High on Fire. Fantastic guests, a superb band, and you can brace yourself, or you can acclimatize yourself to next week's episode right now by spending a significant chunk of time over the coming days listening to the new High on Fire record, Cometh the Storm. It is brilliant. We are not going to play out with a High on Fire track, however, because you'll be getting plenty of that next week. I am going to be playing one of the best releases of the weekend. I actually should have mentioned them before the news rant started, but Selbst have got a new album out, and it is absolutely phenomenal, really, as has been the case with every single thing that they've put out. I've been a champion of this band for a very long time. I think their new album, Despondency Chord Progressions, is probably one of their best ever. You're going to hear a track called Chant of Self-Confrontation. I would like to say once again, thank you very much to David Vincent for his time. I also want to say thank you very much to Coldborn for letting me premiere the new track on the podcast. Whatever it is that you are doing and wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.